Episode 12, R2P Origins. This is part of our 31-day series at a behind-the-scenes look with Rehab to Perform after our recent 6-year anniversary. So thanks for joining us. Tonight we'll be talking specifically about systems and processes and really the framework and models that needed to be put in place for us to have the ability to monitor what it is that was going on at Rehab to Perform, manage what we were doing to ideally find ways to set standards or potentially bring up certain areas, potentially whether or not it was within people or within the collective, and then ideally create opportunities for us to have continued success, things that were repeatable, right? So when I think of what we were originally, myself and Zach, we were two human beings who were good with people, who were pretty good at delivering a physical therapy service in a unique environment, but we were doing a lot of things very naturally without a whole lot of accountability to framework, models, systems, and processes. We were doing a lot of things off of improvisation, through experience, through inherent gifts that we had acquired, things that we were just naturally very, very good at. As we started to add people, whether or not it was Karen or Jared or people behind the scenes with regards to the clerical work at the front desk, there were things that would pop up, and we all of a sudden got to a point where we recognized that we could not sustain the practices that we were using on a regular basis. So honestly, it started clinically. I think like anything, when you think of a physical therapy company, you're automatically going to look at the physical therapy side of the house first with regards to coming up with ways in which you're communicating to people, ways in which you are going through an assessment process, making sure that you are using certain language, avoiding certain narratives. You could have the flow of sessions be something that you're looking at. For us, we wanted to make sure that we were doing things to empower people and educate people. So throughout that evaluation process, throughout the follow-up process, how could we make sure that those were core principles to what was going on? So we started to actually be able to have something that was on paper that we would look back to, and we would just continually refine, knowing that each of us was probably doing certain things very, very well, but that not one of us was doing everything extremely well. So doing our best to take what was in our brain, put it on paper, and ideally sit back and look at what are certain people having success with and what are certain people not having success with. And when I think of frameworks and models, I think of ways in which we can ensure that things rarely go wrong, if ever go wrong. And when something does go wrong, you go into problem-solving mode and you look back at the framework, the models, systems, processes, whatever it is, with regards to the area in which that issue came up. Outside of the clinical side of the house, this went for things like bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, some of the operational tasks associated with insurance verification, authorization, bills being sent out, some of the things that you don't really think need systems and processes, but if you're like me, especially at this point in my life where I enjoy blocking and tackling my calendar and really having things a lot more set in stone, given that I know that the more that I get out of my head and the more that it's in a calendar or on a list or a part of a checklist, honestly, the less anxiety that I get. I feel better knowing that there is a plan in place. And this comes in handy in later episodes where we talk about scaling. We talk about the second episode and just what a pleasant process and really awakening that was in the next episode here. But for everybody who tuned in tonight, if you're taking home some big rocks, right? If you think about going into business for yourself, whether or not it's a side hustle or the main thing that you're going to end up doing, the more that you can get the intellectual property, all right? The things that are in your head, the things that you're very, very good at, the things that you do naturally, the things that have shown that they work, or maybe even they don't work. But if you put it on paper and you start to look at it a little bit more, you let other people look at it, you let other people revise it, edit it, knowing that the more eyes that you have on that and the more people that use the framework in which you normally function off of, the more that you're going to get feedback that you need to continue to evolve and continue to get to that point where you have repeatable practices that have been tried, they've been tested, and they become things that you just go into that monitor and managing mode where it's small tweaks instead of massive shifts. But hopefully this episode was beneficial for you. As I mentioned, stay tuned. Next episode is going to be the big debacle, which is the opening of R2P2, which is where we get pretty much smacked in the face with regards to things that we don't do well or things that we don't have in place to make sure that we can repeat what it is that we're doing at different locations. But stay tuned. Next episode, back at you tomorrow. As I said earlier, 31 days in January and 31 videos of a behind the scenes look at Rehab to Perform.